Hey, up next on the Marr Rock Show, joining us for the first time on the Rock Show, we have got Norman Matthews. Norman is the vocalist and guitar player of the band As Strange as Angels out of Dallas, Texas. Norman, welcome to the show.
Yeah! That's my Sebastian Bach interpretation, right?
Now that's a nice enthusiastic intro, man. And for folks who may listen to you and wonder who I'm talking to and remember you from Murder FM, they may want to wonder a little bit about the formation of the band. It sounds like it kind of took place during somewhat of a turbulent part of your life, maybe.
Yeah, man, it absolutely did. You know, I was killing it with this band, Murder FM. You know, these dudes were, some of my best friends, and we had some of the greatest times of our life together, challenges as well. But I went through a divorce, and we share a son. And so that made, life a little complex. There isn't really a class you can take on divorce preparation. You know what I mean? As you grow up. So it's not so much as a divorce was as crazy and as heavy as just the challenges that it presented, And I had no idea that it would put my head in such a crazy place. My self-awareness was on high. My self-esteem was on low. And so it just made me lack a lot of the confidence and a lot of the motivation needed to do music. I felt like no one would care about the songs that I was going to write, things I had to say. I felt like the most worthless person in the world, and I wasn't deserving of anything good in my life. I mean, it was the real tailspin mentally, and through a lot of counseling and therapy, I ended up actually, I should give my therapist songwriting credit, because really it was, I embraced something, a very life-changing moment in my life. I embraced it and decided to channel that power that was in there to unclog my path, my emotional pathway, and open up and write some songs, because I'm like, you know what, there's got to be people in the world that feel like me, that have gone through what I've gone through, or maybe even just experienced, obstacles and adversity that they didn't expect in their life, as we all do. And to me, it was like I didn't want to do music again for myself. I own a music school and I write for artists and I produce. But for me, I felt like I can't get back into it unless I'm going to bring something to the table, unless it's going to be impactful. And, I just, As Strange as Angel stuff started to come together, and it felt like something that needed to be done. And I was like, all right, man, let's get back on the horse and ride, dude.
So tell folks who you found and who makes up the rest of As Strange as Angels that may not know the band yet.
Yeah, I've got Michelle Graves on drums, man, and it was only natural that she have my back on stage, because she had my back in my personal life, and she really propped me up, man, and was there for me through, just some of the craziest, most challenging stuff I'd ever experienced. And Nick Klinger on bass. So that was super fun, man, and to have one of my best friends, CJ from Drowning Pool, he did some cameo stuff on the record as well. That's coming out April 26th, and just to capture not only the music side of it, but the friendship side of it, and the emotions within the music is, I think, what has really made some of this stuff really impactful. With the audience so far, and why things have been received the way they have been.
So the song Mirror Mirror is out now. It's available digitally. We've put it in our Golden Dozen, and as you mentioned, the EP comes out April 26th. Tell us a little bit about the making of the actual EP, like how long the physical making of the record took and where it was recorded and produced.
Yeah, man, the process itself of the songwriting was about 3 years in the making, I guess, because it was, I would write something, then I would throw it away, then I would write something that I wouldn't feel very confident about it, and then I would just kind of give up on myself for these long lapses of time. And it was people like Michelle and DJ that would, really, really encourage me to, keep going, man. So around July of this past year, I worked with Mick Kinney, who works with Motionless in White, and that was a real breakthrough right there, man. I think I had written some of the best material so far. And so we tracked Days Go By, Love and Death, and Right Beside You in that time frame out in L.A., the barracks in Huntington Beach. And then in that short time, man, it was like I got the spark, My manager connected me with Sahaj from Raw, who's on fire right now. I mean, he's worked with so many great bands. He's doing LeJean from Seven Dust solo record. He's in the Maytel Project. He did the stuff for Motley Crue, the Dirt movie. I mean, he's just on fire. And Eric really felt that Sahaj could take it to another level, which is where I wanted to go for myself. You know, it was like I wanted to, again, if I was going to get back in the music game for myself, I wanted to physically change. I lost like 30 pounds. I grew my hair out. I wanted to emotionally and spiritually evolve. And most importantly, you know, you wanted the music to be different. So Sahaj, I flew out in November of 2018 to work with him in his studio. And when I was out there, when we were actually working on the song Mirror Mirror, the single, that's when the fires were happening in California, man. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I'm looking at my app in my phone, and it's giving you, like, flight danger.
Oh, wow.
Like, status updates, like, literally, like, don't get on that plane.
Man.
Like, they were, American Airlines giving away, like, vouchers to people, like, we'll cancel your flight, give you another one, just don't do it. But I got on the flight, man, and why I mentioned that was because it was one of those do or die moments all the way around. You know, like, I got a little spooked. I was like, whoa, you know, I got my son to live for. I got to get back in less than 48 hours to pick him up from pre-K. You know, I mean, it was like, I really almost didn't get on that plane. And then when I got there, Sahaj and I really didn't have any directive, you know, and that was part of it too, was I sat on his couch in the studio and he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, hey man, let's come up with the way that you think I sound. And he was kind of like, what? And I'm like, look man, if I write these tunes coming, you know, from my hands, I'm going to write the same direction, I'm going to sing the same way, I'm going to play guitar the same way, and I really want to break my own mold. You know, it was a crazy challenge. And so we didn't know what we were going to do, so he threw a couple ideas at me. We started throwing around lyrics and melodies, and I mean, it just kind of went for it. But at that time, because of the fires and stuff and just everything happening, I mean, I think we pulled out 2 songs in less than, you know, maybe 16 hours, if that, top to bottom, written, recorded, like done. It was crazy, dude, and it was the whole thing around it was do or die. But it ended up bringing out some of the best stuff in me. I mean, Sahaj, she's so sweet, dude, but he was pushing me. I'm positive. I like cried at one point because he's pushing me to sing these notes, you know, mirror, mirror, and I'm like, I can't do it. He's so sweet. He's just like, nah, man, you're almost there, dude. Just like, you know, one more time, you know, 300 times later. But I nailed it, you know, and that's the part of it that I needed, you know, because in music, in this day and age with the new model, you know, we can all put our music up, and I think that's a really beautiful gift in the world. But at the same time, I also feel like you should have some responsibility and don't just do it in vain. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
At least for the project, for me, for As Strange as Angels, I was like, dude, if I'm going to have to be blasting people over the head with, you know, like my stuff on Facebook, get my record, get my single, come to my shows, buy my merch, I'm like, I need to do my part and really put something out that makes a difference. Otherwise, I don't need to be wasting people's time on that, you know? So that was the huge part with Sahaj, man. And when we tracked Mirror Mirror, I was like, good God, dude, like, I didn't even recognize myself. It was amazing. So the whole experience was exactly what I wanted it to be. So, you know, a long answer to a short answer, you know, we started really turning up the heat in July. And when Sahaj and I got together in November, I mean, it was just like we really turned up the gas because it was like, I felt like myself again, you know, and it was like, all right, dude, do it.
So you record the song Mirror Mirror, it's out there now, and I hear the story about that, and then the music video comes out. And then I can only guess, and I'd like to hear you talk about the decision, A, it's a performance video, but B, it's in black and white. Does that come from, you know, the emotion of everything that you were going through?
Absolutely, man. You know what? Our director, Michael Carter, he had done a previous song that I did with As Strange as Angels just to kind of get my feet wet, Waves. And we had done this really crazy thematic video that I thought was like super killer. But this time around, you know, we had discussed like ideas, and I'm like, hey man, why don't we just straight up go for the gut? You know, 1, performance, 2, very intimate, very dark, black and white. Just keep it real, man, because that's how I felt I am as a person now. You know, like everything's got to be black and white to a certain degree. Like, you know, I call it heart rock. As Strange as Angels is heart rock. From the heart, for the heart, by the heart, if you will. And it just felt natural because there was completely raw. There was no, like, editing in there. I mean, we get all dolled up and do our makeup and whatever, like get our guy liner on, right?
Right.
It was just like, dude, whatever, man. Like, for me, I just went in there, plain black shirt, jeans, freaking Toms. I don't even think I'm wearing socks. You know what I mean? But the idea behind it was that it's about this song needs to capture the soul and emotion that went into it. The video needs to, and that's what needs to sell this more than anything else behind it. It doesn't need to be flashy. The song is real, and I think the presentation of it needs to be real to really, connect with people, because that's where I'm at. Murder FM was very character-driven, at least on my part. We were like Rob Zombie and Manson and even Korn to a degree, And so it was fun that way, because it was like, you weren't responsible for the things that you were saying in the song, because you're like, oh man, that's my alter ego, but that's not really me,
Yeah.
And in this case, it's all me. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just throw it all out there, dude. Like pimples and whatever is on me. It's like, let's just go, dude. A couple scraggly gray hairs. Keep it real, dude. That's where we're at in life. So that's why, yes, it's exactly just a raw, straight up, as emotional as can be video.
So I saw you had a nice little show with John Corabi in your hometown there, it looked like. And what folks are going to know is there going to be a chance to see you performing live anytime soon?
Yeah, we did 2 shows with John. We did Arkansas the night before, and then we did Dallas, I think, 2 nights ago. And both shows were packed. Arkansas actually sold out. And it was really awesome, because we started out again in the spirit of evolving and keeping it intimate. It was like, hey, yeah, acoustic shows? Why not? We're doing everything else different. I'm already like crazy vulnerable. Like, I might as well just walk out on stage in my socks. I mean, in my underwear at this point, because it's like, to do acoustic shows, if anyone is familiar with my band, Murder FM before, my persona was very over the top at that time in my life. Everything was just, piss and vinegar and full on and production and just loud and in your face. And so this is a complete opposite in that regard, and you can't hide behind that. I'd never been so nervous in my life to play a show. It's almost like, I guess if you've ever heard musicians that have been, into drugs and alcohol, and then they've been sober, and they come out and they do a show, and they're like, oh, good God, like, that was the most terrifying thing ever, because they had always played under the influence of something, I had played shows before under the influence of myself, and my own ego. And this time around, it was like, I'm scared of my own shadow, and I'm just standing out there with my guitar, like, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, no big intro, no big nothing.
Yeah.
Just like, let's play some songs. Like, I'm positive I rambled, just nonsense at one point. But it was so cool to do, man, and it was so cool to play shows and see that, like, people, like, actually want the music, because I'm just, as a performer and as a person, I'm just in such a different place in my head, and it takes a certain sort of ego and confidence to be a front person and to be a singer, and I lost a lot of that, which is kind of cool, because I'm rebuilding it, so I get to rebuild it in a different way. So I took the task and the challenge on of acoustic shows first. I'm like, let's do it. I got nothing to hide behind. It's got to be about the song. I got to remember the damn chords. I got to remember my lyrics. Oh yeah, sing in tune as well. Jesus, you know what I mean? But it made it fun, because it was a challenge. It was like challenge accepted, and to see people accept it, to see the demand, for the band, like people picking up. So yes, we definitely just started discussing the other day about like, hey man, Ed, in fact, was the one that brought it up. He's like, hey, we got to do some extended, touring now, get back and do some shows. And so if people will have me, I'd love to be out there.
Well, hey, man, one more thing before I let you go. You're coming at this, so you're a new band, but a veteran musician. And I guess, is it kind of hard? You kind of alluded to this a little bit, but, is it harder to retool and start over, or is it a little easier because, like, everybody in the industry now? Does that help or not so much at this point?
It does and it doesn't. It's a really weird spot, because, I started at 17, man. I had a developmental deal with Capitol Records. I was in some rat bands. I got a really young start, so it's like I feel like an old dog in the fight, but in the big picture, it's like I'm right where anyone would have been if they had started in their late 20s and had some moderate success, So it's like the timeline is even, but to me, it's like, God, dude, I've been doing this for so long, And retooling is exciting, and it's a really weird spot, you know, because you have connections in the industry, you have friends, you've toured with all these awesome bands that I'm extremely fortunate to have ever played with, you know, and do arenas with, I mean, on top of that. And to just kind of, it's weird, right? You know, you're coming out the gate baby band, but we're not necessarily baby band in the industry, but it's kind of a whole new thing because it's not my band now, it's just me, so it's very personal, you know, so it's a really tricky spot, you know.
Yeah.
Because, like, people within the business are aware, like, I remember that kid, like, he's been doing it for, you know, how long now or whatever, or I remember that band, and then in some ways you have to kind of, like, resell them on what you're doing because you're like, yeah, man, what I'm doing is completely different. I mean, it moves and sounds like a rock band, but everything else around it is actually really, really different, you know, and the way we're trying to plot this thing out is extremely different. So, you know, people that have given it a chance and those early believers, man, like, I owe them, like, huge love. The immediate radio chart success we've had, I mean, first week out, it was a #1 Billboard mainstream most added chart, you know, mainstream rock most added.
Yeah.
The SM, like, secondary, dude, it's, like, killing. It's just like, what is going on, man? It's massive. Like, I'm kind of scared, to be honest. You know, I get, like, butterflies. I'm like, what, dude, you know? I check my email inbox like it's Christmas Eve, you know? I'm just like, oh, my God, like, what else is around? Like, I can't believe this, you know what I mean? It's such a cool feeling. So it is weird, you know, because you've done it, you know what it takes, but then it's kind of, like, happening so much differently.
Yeah.
So, it's a really weird spot, you know?
I can imagine. Hey, man, the band is As Strange as Angels. They're out of Dallas, Texas. They're to Mirror Mirrors in our Golden Dozen right now. The new record is due out just around the corner here on April 26th. And, hey, Norman Matthews, man, I had a great time talking with you, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank
and
you,
when that tour makes it nationwide, man, we'll be sure to come on out and see you.
Awesome, brother. And thank you so much. Again, man, you're one of those on the early believer list, dude. So thank you, man.